Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Forward Weekend Warriors. This is round number 8 of this season, coming to you today from Oran Park. My name is Ron Maunz, coming to you today from the studios of NPR, because I don't know why I'm talking so quietly at the start of the show. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. That feels rather alien. Let me... Welcome everybody in. We have got a fantastic race for you all here today at this track, which is an oddity here on iRacing, sadly no longer with us. This scan was done right before this track permanently closed down back in 2010, but this is a fun one, and we're running on the not very often used Moto layout of this track here, Charles. Not really venturing off into the unknown, as the Moto layout isn't exactly the greatest change around here, but you know, it is still a change, and these racers will have to get used to it.
Yeah, it's a little different than the standard layout, but this is going to be a very interesting race. I'm not the biggest fan of this track, but it does bring some good racing to the table. As we get a little further into this open here, we'll talk about some of the keys, as well as what's going to take to actually get this race won by one of these drivers.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a fun one for these racers. It's going to be a challenging one. We'll break out all the superlatives to talk about this race, but before we move too far off into qualifying here, let's take a look at the championship point standings heading into the 8th round of this championship. In Spec 1, looking pretty all right for Marco Pinero as it stands right now, 673 points. The current tally for him, Felix Samoas, is right behind in P2. Bit of a gap as a result of some drama right towards the end of the race at Sebring last time out, giving Pinero the edge out. I think if Pinero can put together a real consistent run of form to the end of the season, he may be able to get the job done here for the championship in Season 3 of 2025. Kane Lasky, our SMB colleague, slotted in 4th, with Jason Green and Eric Luke rounding out your top 5 in Spec 1. We'll take a look at Spec 2, as I don't know why I have a voice crack, or as I said, Spec 1. Here's Spec 2, where Dirk Braun is your current championship points leader as it stands right now, 415 points on the board. Josh Wilkie at 356 is slotted in 2nd. Matt Thompson, Leonard Geese, and Phil Berry round out your top 3 in Spec 2 as we take a look at the Masters category here, where it's looking good for Antonio Reese. 490 points his current tally as it stands right now. Tom Gradwell just swapping the 2 numbers out for an even total of 409. Jeff Fritcher right behind, only 1 point the difference between those two in P2 and P3. Brad Cathcart and Adam Bradshaw round out your top 5 in the Masters class. So all throughout the field, looking pretty all right for your current championship leaders, but we have got a rather intriguing series of races to look forward to throughout the rest of this season. And Charles, to get us up and rolling for the final 5 rounds, we've got this track here at Oran Park. Unfortunately, it was knocked down because of housing developments, and a lot of people back when this track initially closed, very happy about to get some keys for some new houses.
Yeah, and I'll bring the keys to the race to them as well. So today at Oran Park, great passing chances using the draft. Got a couple really long straightaways at the beginning of the lap. And the way this track's configured, we get a close battle up front. We may have a nice little run to the start-finish line to see who's going to actually win the race. So look forward to seeing that in about 45 minutes time. May see several drive-through penalties. Obviously, very technical track overall. Not a lot of room for incident points. You'll run wide in some of these, and because of the nature of the track, may have a little contact with some other cars. So we may see several cars have to make the drive of shame down pit road. Then finally, as I said, very narrow track should make for some really exciting battles amongst the field. And especially, like I said, down through turn 1 and 2, after that long run down the straightaway, you'll see some people making some chances there as we go. So look forward to seeing all this. I think it's going to be an exciting race, but we've seen a catastrophe as well, and I think as a fourth unnoted, I think debris may play a little bit of a role in this as well. As we get further, I'm seeing a lot of corkscrew crunch on the track already.
Yeah, a lot of corkscrew crunch already around this circuit. I and especially notice it coming out of the Yokohama Bridge section right at the start of this lap. And speaking of, I'll point at that bridge as we ride on board with Jeff Fritcher here around Oran Park. This track is a wild ride, a unique ride as well. A crossover, one of very few racetracks on iRacing to actually have a crossover featured in it. That was turn number 1, the sweeper. This is turn number 2 of Coca-Cola Corner. You can see that very odd inside curve and the amount of gravel already strewn across the racetrack on corner exit under the Yokohama Bridge. Now we note the change of this Moto layout here at Oran Park. You'd usually go straight. Instead, we've got this small little dogleg detour to take it off down into turn number 5 of Champion Curve. If you want to be the champion in this race, you don't take that line. Wolf, we find if anyone else is doing a lap here. Let me revert everything that I just said. Let's do an onboard lap here at Oran Park with Scott Russell behind the wheel of the number 22 Garden State Racing Team entry, currently qualified in P14 and getting a nice draft from Mr. Joshua Wilkie right in front. That's turn number 1 of sweeper. Here's turn number 2 of Coca-Cola Corner. That inside curve, really an irrigation trench from the looks of it. Looks rather odd, heading off through there, and if you hook a wheel off in there, you're probably going to be in for a world of hurt. Same could be said about the inside curve of turn number 3 of Shell Corner. Note the elevation change heading off through this turn number 4, the Moto layout of this track. Let's see as we head our way through Champion Curve. If he parked it on the outside, I was about to punch a hole in the wall, but he goes over the top of the bridge through turn number 6 right now. You can see taking some liberties with the inside track limits there. This is an old school track, really no sort of asphalt runoff area to speak of. You gotta keep it tight heading off through here. We'll worry about those incident points a little bit later on. That's turn number 9 of Momo Corner. And here into the best corner name in all of global motorsports for that matter, the O'Brien Aluminum Dogleg, turn number 10 and 11. This is Recaro Corner of turn number 12. Not a Recaro sign at all heading off through there, but there is that wall on the outside, concrete in its construction and terrifying in its looming heading through that final turn. That's a lap with Scott Russell. Jumps up to P11, even with not a lot of drafting assistance, can still put a good lap here. Felix Samoas won't need to gain a whole lot of time if he wants to jump up into the pole position in front of his championship rival Marco Panero. Only 16,000th the gap between those two right now at the front of the board.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty tight at the top as we see the top. We got the top 16 drivers within a second of pole. Obviously, with these cars, that's going to be meaning that you're in the prime draft range. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as we go. And good to see as we're getting here. We want to shout out Bobby West, West Tech Esports, for sponsoring the broadcast today. Even though Bobby's not racing, did he not realize that he gets a 5-second head start if he sponsors a race? I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if Bobby was aware of the fact that if you are the sponsor in the Spec Racer for Weekend Warriors here, and you are out there on the racetrack, you actually get a courtesy bottle of nitrous from Mr. Stevie Ray himself. So I'm not sure why he turned down the nitrous, a 5-second head start, or the, I think he also got a 55-gallon drum of rocket fuel as well. That's, man, what?
And a host of O'Brien aluminum products.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. See, sponsorship has its privileges, so you got to take those as they come. Exactly. This is gonna as we're on board here with Josh Justice. This is gonna be one of those. This could be one of those races where it could be a really, really fun battle at the front, or we could have, because of the way the track's laid out with some of these curves, we could have a pretty major pile up. So we're hoping that everybody keeps it calm, cool, and collected at the beginning of this, and we'll settle in and have us a barn burner of a race, I think.
Yeah, I think that's going to be super, super fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a little while since we saw the Spec Racer Fords run here at Oran Park, but it's a rather fun track, rather intriguing as well. I mentioned this right towards the start of the show. This track sadly gone the way of the Dodo Bird, but iRacing preserving it. One of 2 tracks they tried to preserve. One worked well in terms of preserving it. One, at the end of it all, didn't need to be preserved, but its preservation actually saved it, that being North Wilkesboro Speedway. Rather funny how that sort of stuff works. And a collection of a couple of racetracks that are currently on the iRacing platform that are no longer operational. This USA International Speedway, which I believe is now Walmart, incidentally enough, and I believe the other one is Wild West Motorsports Park, which I believe closed its doors not too terribly long ago. But the checkered flag out in this qualifying session. Marco Panero still on the provisional pole overall. Jeff Frischer, your top qualifier of the Masters racers as it stands right now, and Dirk Braun top of Spec 2 as we're waiting for these racers to set their final times. Here's Dirk Braun across the line right now. Don't believe that will be an improvement from the driver of the 525. Felix Samoa is looking to improve, though good in the middle sector, not so great through sectors 1, 2, and 4. Let's see what he can pull off as he heads his way through the final turn. Doesn't need a huge gain, only needs to gain 17 thousandths of a second, but he's going to be gaining a buddy in the pit stops. Samoa's backing out of it.
Yeah, bails out. There's one more note as I was kind of watching practice. The fastest way around this track is actually kind of in pit entry as you're coming around that final corner. So if you see the pit sign coming up in the timing tower, it may blink there for a couple of seconds and then go away. And that is just the nature of this track. And we didn't talk about that's a pretty tight little pit entry there that you're going to have to hit. And pit exit is not great either because you're coming right out into the racing line coming into turn 1. So pit stops may be a little treacherous tonight as well.
Yeah, it may be a very treacherous race for these drivers. That pit entry, I'm not really sure the best way that I can describe it. It's basically a bottleneck heading off through there. It's about as wide as one single car, and that is about all. If we have a driver spun there, we may fully end up in a Austin Power situation, have to pull off the New Jersey Turnpike pending 798-point turn. Actually, I say that's definitely more of a Philadelphia move. The New Jersey 3-point turn is going on the Turnpike and turning 50,000 times only to get off at exit 2.
Yeah,
I've
got a good metaphor for pit entry. It's like trying to carry a 2x4 through a door frame.
That's a very good way of putting it. I like that. We're about to get the starting grid loaded up here for this race, qualifying now firmly in our rearview mirror. Let's take a look at this. Marco Panero starting from the pole. Felix Samoa set to join on the front row. Aleix Pleva will start this race in 3rd. Jeff Fritcher in 4th. Jason Grider in 5th. Kane Lasky in 6th. Dirk Braun in P7. Starting this race in P8 is going to be Antonio Reese. In P9 will be Joachim Osbeck. Jörg Monty going to start this race in 10th. Should be noted that Fritcher, your pole sitter in Masters. Dirk Braun, your pole sitter in Spec 2. It's Scott Russell in P11, Josh Justice in P12. Looking right behind us, Phil Berry and Dan Widzak on row number 7. Josh Wilke and Tom Gradwell on row number 8. Flavio Angelo and Just Simpkins will start this race in P17 and P18. Brad Cathcart in 19th, Daniel Wood in 20th. Adam Bradshaw in 21st, Paul Jackson in 22nd, Sean McStay in 23rd, Russ Telker in 24th, Matt Thompson, Andre Favini and Ken Poulin round out your 27 starters before they even fully lined up on that provisional starting grid to get this pace lap underway. A shortened one, so these drivers won't have a lot of time to warm up their tires, get the juices flowing, so to speak, before they have to lick the stamp and send it off into that first heavy braking zone.
Yeah, good job on that. Getting that done before we had plenty of time. You ran through it, and you did a great job. It's good to see you Simpkins back. He hasn't been here in a few weeks as we're rolling off the line here, getting ready to get this race started. So good to see some old names back come to do a little racing today.
Yeah, really nice to see some returning names here in the Spec Racer Fords. As long as I've been doing these Weekend Warriors broadcasts, some of these racers have always been a fixture of these events. And we got two mainstays here in the Spec Racer Fords, the two battling for the championship as well. It's Marco Panero and Felix Samoa is lining up on the front rows. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. A bit of stacking up a little bit farther in the back, but we are racing here at Oran Park. A good start there from Panero. An all-right one from Samoa. They're going to lead them off, heading down into turn number 1. The sweeper into 2 of the Coca-Cola corner. Let's see who's going to make it work side by side. Going to go on right behind. That right there is a fight involving Kane Lasky and Aleix Pleva. Let's see how that'll all work as they head their way off into turn number 3 right at the start of this lap. The tighter bend. Let's see who gets caught out by this Moto layout. Usually it's so instinctful just to go straight, knock down some of those cones, and take the shortcut through. Everyone makes it through that series of corners to clean. Turn 5 may be a choke point, but up the front it it is Pinero in front of Samoas, in front of your P3 runner and top runner in the Masters category, Jeff Fritcher, but there's carnage behind. We're hearing Flavio Andelo and Phil Berry getting struck by falling anvil. Some more drivers dropping back as a result.
Yeah, also Adam Bradshaw fell back as well, but good starts by Russ Telker, Andrea Favini, Paul, and who was the other one? It was another car that moved up, but maybe he fell back down the order. But Telker up 7 positions, Favini up 8. I think it was actually Bradshaw that was up 5 or 6 before he ran into trouble. And we've got Berry and Andelo in the pits.
Yes, there's some pit stops already going on, not because of a strategy call, because of an incident that's going to take him out of contention rather early on. Ken Poulin should be known, the driver of the 414, not taking the start in this race. As look at Kane Lasky, very wiggly into turn number 2. He's going to go, remains in 4th for now. However, with some sideways snaps to the braking zones, don't want to risk that too much. Himself and Aleix Pleva currently battling hard into turn number 3. Look at Pleva trying to make something work. The driver from the Czech Republic trying to stick it down the inside, not able to get it done. As we take a look at a moment here on lap 1, it's Andre Favini, the Swedish driver behind the wheel, that number 27 machine, munching some cones on the exit of 3, holding on to the inside through 4 and stuck on the outside through turn number 5. Josh Wilkie gets spun by Russ Telker, and in that stack up, multiple drivers gonna punch some holes in. And oh, what in the world was going on there with Phil Berry and Flavio Andelo? It looked like those two cars were stuck together, welded together even.
Yeah, just we saw the half spin or the pit maneuver there with Berry there. You see Wilkie around, and these cars just get together, and it's iRacing glues. They just get hung up together and end up. And now he's stuck to Andelo. As that's why both of those cars were in the pits. They had to both tow to get themselves unstuck from each other. Really strange.
Oh, that's Jeff Fritcher. That's your Masters leader, Jeff Fritcher, taking a one-way trip off into the kitty litter on the outside of turn number 2. As that's a spin from Josh Justice. He's going to spin outside the top 10. Look at him, and the number 99 machine gets it spun back around in the grass. I think he may have slightly hit the wall. He hit the wall. Not a lot of damage on that car, so it looks like he's gone away with one there. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what sort of weird race car gymnastics that we saw with Flavio Andelo and Phil Berry. I'll tell you what here, Charles, that may be the most funky stuff that I've seen in my entire life. You can tell it was very odd, just based off the fact I nearly dropped a word that the Columbia School of Broadcasting would tell me to replace with fish sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a word that you do not want to use on the YouTube broadcast a week after we got our partnership with YouTube. So yeah, let's keep that one tucked away. And as we're watching here, that was some weird physics, but I do want to give a shout out to you and Josh Wilkie for all the behind the scenes stuff you do to keep slow motion out there and get this partnership deal done. So very, very proud of you guys for all the work, as well as Stevie Ray, Adam Thompson. We'll throw them in there as well.
Wow.
So there's used around and just loses it, tries to get it collected back and not quite. Oh! And then there's a side swap by Bradshaw as he comes barreling through. So hey, not the greatest return from Simpkins, even though he is returned. So he's in the pits with the meatball flag, so he'll get his car squared away and get back out on the track.
As we take a look at a moment involving Russ Telker, I thank you for the kind words there, Charles, but right as you were saying that, I made a very odd cacophony of sound waves coming out of my mouth as we saw that moment for Simpkins. That's a moment for Telker into turn number 5, locks it up, runs wide, and goes off into the kitty litter. The gravel traps probably going to get their fair amount of visitors thus far here in this race, as it's still Pinero leading over Samoas. The gap between these two, about a quarter of a second. The gap behind to Aleix Pleva, your P3 runner, as it stands right now, about a full second. So he's just barely there hanging on to the draft. However, if Pleva loses out on a bit of time, he may be in for a world of difficulties. We'll say, if anyone's getting jump scared like I have on several occasions by Dirk Braun making a call to come down pit lane, it's not because of any sort of pit lane call or strategy or incident. He is just frequently being abducted by a UFO. I'm going to share this at this point in the show. If anyone tuning into this broadcast wants to go on the O'Reilly Auto... Oh, boy, that was Dan Witzak.
Yeah, just you can see that those first couple of corners, very hard to get the car headed the proper direction at the right speed. You're trying to just carry as much as you can through 1 into 2, and then you got to get the car wound up and cornered. And some people are struggling just a little bit here at the early part of the race. I'm sure that'll probably clean itself up as we go forward, as we're still just kind of watching here this battle up front. Pleva is actually starting to close that gap, and he's got some very fast cars behind him. I think once they start working together, they'll make that time up, and we'll have a nice big uh, group of cars there at the front of the field.
I will say something bad has gone on with Jeff Fritcher in the early stages of this lap. He dropped down like a stone. And I think it actually is. I don't think it's any sort of UFO activity for Dirk Braun. I think there's some sort of thing on our software that's going to say these drivers are making that call to come down pit lane where they use all of the asphalt coming out of turn number 12. As we're going to take a look at the moment involving Jeff Fritcher. He dropped outside the top 10, wasn't holding on to the Masters lead before this, and is now just barely clinging onto a podium spot in Masters. Yeah. So take a look at that moment for him.
Yeah, he's definitely struggling. It's those you get to those S's. If you get the first one wrong, it's really hard to get the car corrected and back on the right line. So we see Wilkie going wide there, and it's almost like and there's a little half spin from Wilkie as he couldn't get the car quite slow down and locks the brakes, but saves it and gets it back out. And and you talked about Dirk Braun in the pit light. It's almost like you weren't paying attention when I said that at the beginning of the broadcast.
Oh, I have been phoning in these shows ever since I got started with them back in 2023. Marco Pinero right now holding on to the race lead. Felix Samoa slotted in P2. I was going to say, in reference to Dirk Braun, I was kind of setting myself up for a joke that he actually went back in time as a result of some of the stuff that he's blinked in and out of. We'll say, if you go onto the O'Reilly Auto Parts website and look up part number 121G, I'll let you look that up so you can see that. Don't worry, it will not give you a computer virus. Alaise Pleva in the 113 car, not the 113 car, just at 113 as his lap time in the 46 car. The best lap of the race for him, the best lap of the race for anybody up to this point here. 7 laps in to this 40-minute long race. It's Pinero up at the front in Spec 1. Antonio Reese, your leader in Masters, and Dirk Braun holding on to a comfortable gap right now in Spec 2. Josh Wilkie is his main challenger, about 7 spots back, but it being Josh in one of these Weekend Warriors races this season, I'm expecting for him to get struck by a falling meteorite or a koala or a kangaroo running across the track and breaking his radiator.
Yeah, I could see the koalas being coming into play here before this race is over with. Josh has had some really good races, but also some very bad luck out on the track. Some of it, I think he'll tell you probably self-induced as well. So we'll see if he can get things righted here and start moving up the order a little bit. But he's got about a 3-second gap up to Tom Gradwell in 13th. Obviously, he's looking further ahead at Dirk Braun running in P7 as those cars are making that wide exit out of turn 12 and setting off the pit lane light as we continue on during this race.
You can see some lap traffic a little bit farther up the road. That is Hugh Simpkins there, currently slotted in 24th as it stands right now. I think he locks up, heading down to the turn. Got to let those racers go by. That's a bit of a choke point, though. Jason Green not going to get helped out at all as a result of all of that. Really nothing that Simpkins can do in that part of the track. Turn number 3 and 5 around this track. The changes being made, you think, okay, it's like 50 feet. I even undersold it to a certain point. It's just the track being moved by about 50 feet. And while it isn't the greatest change in the world, it still changes up the run through turn number 3 and 5 quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see a screen in the background, who was that? Simpkins again. Simpkins not having the greatest day. I think I may have jinxed him there at the beginning, give him a shout out for coming back, and but he's getting plenty of airtime, so you enjoy that. May not be appreciative of it, but we do appreciate you being back here and racing with us again. As we're back up to the front of the field, and that gap is now starting to close down. Pleva is actually starting to gate. He's only down to 7 tenths or so behind Samoas.
As we take a look at a side-by-side fight, got flare up here with Jörg Mani and Scott Russell heading down into turn number 2. That's a nice move from Mani on Russell to jump his way up into P90, current P2 runner in the Masters class as it stands currently, as here may be a fight flaring up with Brad Cathcart in the 905 and Andre Favini in the 27 machine as they head their way off into 3. Looks like they will remain a line astern as it stands currently. Up at the front, though, the battle's starting to flare up. I said that it was a second gap with the front two of Pinheiro and Samoa's back to P3 of Elias Pleva. And I was saying that if Pleva had a small little trip up, he was probably going to lose out on the draft. Well, he hasn't had that trip up, and he's right there to pound about a half a second the gap between himself and Felix Samoa. So slowly but surely reeling in that gap and making up the time.
He is indeed. Yeah, he's up to the front group now, and he's brought Lasky and Green and Reese along with him as you just see another fast lap of the race for Pleva, 113 flat. So definitely bringing the speed today, and so he looks like he might be a player for a win here today.
So let's see how it's all going to work out. Brad Cathcart, I think he's made the call to come down pit lane in the 905 machine. Interesting stuff there to come into the pits at this early stage of the race. I guess we would technically be in that pit window rather early on, though, I will say. Let's see if he will be joined by anybody. He will by Daniel Wood. So 2 drivers a little bit farther behind trying to throw something at it and see if they can make it work. Very early pit calls. What do you make of that, Charles? Because it is still within that window, but rather on the early end.
It is early, and the only thing I can think is he was behind the driver that he felt like he was significantly faster than. Obviously this track, very difficult to find a way around. So he said, you know what, I'll come in, I'll try the undercut. I don't know that the undercut's going to be a great idea here. We saw it earlier today in our Formula Ford race where the undercut worked out for a couple of the drivers and really elevated them up. This I'm not so sure about. We'll see how it plays out. We'll keep an eye on Cathcart as he goes, but obviously pretty short as far as the pit lane goes. So you're not losing just tons of time there. So he's going to come out. Is that him getting lapped? Or is that not Dan Wood getting lapped? So Dan Wood is being lapped by the front runners after he's made his stop, and Cathcart, it looks like will be the next car to fall victim to that.
Scott Russell and Dan Witzak having a swaparoo a little bit farther behind. That's a battle for P11 as it stands right now. I think Russell may have had a bad series of corners as he's now also dropped behind Tom Gradwell. A black flag in the air for Adam Bradshaw. I think what happened there? I think he's decided to call it a day. Yeah, Bradshaw going to tow back to pit lane. I think he may have just called it an afternoon here. And let's take a look to see what happened to this racer. Behind the wheel, the 929 machine, the Masters driver from the UK, heading his way off in there. Already a little bit of damage on the back end of that car as he heads his way all through turn number 2. It's that inside curb, the irrigation trench, as I like to call it. Around he goes. That's probably where he picked up the black flag, towed, and then I think he decided, you know what? I'm done. I've had enough of this track today.
Yeah, he's already had a 4X obviously from the damage to the rear of the car. Then you just add another 2X into that for the loss of control as he spun the car beyond 90 degrees to the track. So he was probably at that black flag limit. Like I said, it's one of these tight tracks. There's not a lot of give as far as X's go, as far as off tracks. There's not a lot of room for error. So so just not a good day for Adam, unfortunately, as we see all those cars. I don't know if that's an X or not. It looks like lots of people are taking that, a little cut through there. So based on that, I'm going to say that's probably not. But now you've got the top 4 up front as we now have Lasky has joined this front group.
It is a party up at the front with 4 very different racers and 4 very different looking race cars as well. But Pinheiro still being the Pied Piper of this pack for now. Lasky, he's gotten close to wins up to this point. Samoa is obviously a race win contender along with Pinheiro. Elias Pleva, been a little while since we saw him contend for a win in one of these Spec Racer Ford races. I don't think it's been since at the very least last season in season 2 of 2025 that we saw him contend for something, as Jeff Fritcher and Josh Wilkie have both come down pit lane as of recent moments. So that's one of your top runners in Masters and one of your top runners at Spec 2, both being united in that call to come down pit lane. Would have to take a big swing at things to catch up to the respective class leaders of Antonio Reese in the case of Fritcher and Dirk Braun in the case of Josh Wilkie and Spec 2. So we're still seeing these racers go for that interesting strategy. If I can flash my mind back to the last time the Spec Racer Fords were running here at Oran Park, I believe at that point in time it was still our old pal Mr. Randall McGrew on these broadcasts instead of I believe we saw these racers do a bit of an inverse of the usual Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior strategy. They would actually come into the pits in the early stages and then just run at the clock towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's if it works, it works. It just kind of feels like that's kind of backwards. I think that's one of those races you want to just try and do a little bit of fuel saving as much as you can early part, and then just a very quick pit stop to top up as we see car being lapped there. I think that was just
that may have been Russ Telker. Yeah, it was
Telker. As he just runs wide. I think he was just trying to avoid everything and maybe got a little too far offline, trying to give these leaders room to. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. I think he's just but carried a little too much speed as he was offline there coming through one. He's going to get that righted and get back on the track. So Telker's going to go a lap down here early. Who's already been in the pits, so he came in at lap 11, so he's already got his pit stop done, so he should be able to make up a few positions before the end of the race. He was having a good run up until he took that stop, so we'll see if old Russ can pick up a few positions before it's over.
Still a decent amount of time left to go here in this race, so we'll just have to wait and see. Hearing as well that there's a moment for Scott Russell. Let's see the driver of the number 22 car heading his way through turn 4 into 5 right now. There's been a section already catching out a couple of racers, hits that inside curb. Nothing bad through 5 as he crests the hill, though, over the Yokohama Bridge. What? In the
okay.
Carry the 5. What? Huh?
I think that's what we call desync. I think that was what that was. So yeah, just you saw the lag of his internet connection there, disappearing for a brief moment, and then as it brought it back, we're going to get a look here. This is U Simpkins again. I think is that Dan Witzak in front of him? I believe it is. Oh no! Oh, you hate to see that. Yeah, Witzak was coming into the pits. We heard, earlier, I think I heard one of the drivers call out that he was coming in, but I did not hear that for Witzak. And, Hughes just had a good run. And as you would do as you're getting on that drafty section of the track. And you saw now what we were talking about when we said a little bit of a dangerous on pit entry there, as that is the normal, kind of the normal racing line coming through there. And if you're going to pit, you might want to let somebody know one way or the other.
Yeah, I think this is one of those tracks above any where you do have to give a call over the iRacing radio. Say, like, whatever it is, I'm coming down pit lane, be ready, as that's Flavio Andelo. That was a rather bizarre-looking collision. It looked like that car ended up in reverse heading down into turn at number 2 as he went down the gears. That was a huge snap from him. Quick snap of oversteer, going to send him off into the kitty litter. Joaquin Mosbach also down pit lane. We'll say Dan Witzak and all that drama picked up a black flag. I'm not sure whether that was for incidents or whether it was for speeding. Probably for speeding as a result of him getting a punt from the back heading down in there.
Or at least an unsafe pit entry because he was probably over the line after being hit from behind. And and the Antelo looked like it was was that Favini? Anyway, the car that we were just looking at, that I think you called it as he was going down the gears. I think that was a little bit of a diff lock that he encountered there as he was working his way down the gears, maybe a little quicker than he probably should have.
When I saw that snap, I got bad flashbacks to my karting days with rear axle brakes. Oh, here's a move from Felix Samos to take the race lead on Marco Pinero, heading down into turn number 2. Gets it done pretty slick as he heads his way off through there. So that's Samos jumping into the race lead. He's been playing the patient game ever since the drop of the green flag. It's Kane Lasky getting very close to the back of Plevitt. Looked like heading down into turn number 2 there. But this battle up at the front, I think, will start to flare up, not only because Felix Samos has been that one to finally start to pounce, but we've also got Pinero, Pleva, and Lasky, and we have those pit stops to worry about as well. We're past the halfway mark here in this race for round number 8 of the Spec Racer 4 Weekend Warriors, as that's Jörg Mani and Dirk Braun coming to blows through 3.
That's a bit strange. I like to get a replay of that. Here we go. Let's see. So we got Monty behind Braun, and then Braun going wide. Monty looking to the inside, and then locks it up, realizing it was a little bit late, and Braun was coming back across to the apex, and saw a little bit of contact there. Nothing really major, just cost him a couple of seconds of time there on that lap. With a little bit of contact, I don't really see any major damage on either car. They should be able to carry that on until they get to their pit stop.
Yeah, just a messy incident heading down into turn number 3. I wonder if Monty briefly forgot about the fact that we are running on the tighter version of this track. It's a blessing and a curse, that section heading into turn number 3 with the Moto layout that we are running. I feel like it is somewhat easier to potentially outbrake somebody because it is a harder braking zone since it's a tighter corner. But at the same time, it's also super tough to try and get that run heading off through there because you're immediately stuck on the outside through turn number 4. If you can hold it through 5, then you may have a solid shot of getting the move done. Outside of that, you'll really have to rethink it as we look at these two. Nose to tail yet again down into turn number 3. Looks like they're going to run basically as they were. Antonio Reese, it should be noted, is your current Masters leader. Haven't really talked about him too much in this race. I think I think Guido called it at the end of the Formula Ford broadcast that we were probably going to have a chat with Antonio again during the Spec Race Ford race.
Yeah, he's just running his race. He's off the lead pack, running by himself. But you know, still got good pace in the car, and he's still running just off the leader's pace. I mean, he's only a tenth or so off of what the leaders ran the last couple of laps. So you know, he's having a good race. It's not, you know, he's leading his class, and he's got a nice gap of about 8 seconds over Jörg Mani. So he's doing exactly what he needs to do just to extend his championship lead.
Doing everything he needs to do as it stands right now. As here's a side-by-side fight between Mani and Braun, and that's going to result in Mani jumping his way up into P7 right there. We're at that point of the season where it really is getting to crunch time for these competitors. Only 4 rounds left to go leaving this week's race, and looking ahead at the season schedule that we've got here for the rest of the Spec Racer for the Weekend Warriors season. We're going to be running at, actually, I just realized I was about to rattle off the Formula Ford schedule because my notes for some reason were actually the Formula Ford ones instead of the Spec Racer Ford ones. But now looking through the rest of the season here from the Spec Racer Fords, and we've had some rather oddball tracks, some fun ones, some ones that we've been around many times before. We're looking through Magny Core next time out, Road America, Long Beach, and Navarra. So some drafting tracks to look ahead to here in the SRFs may create a little bit of chaos and drama to look forward to in the weeks that lie ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see Matt Thompson going off in turn 2, just you know, brake lock up, and it's just had to go to the gravel to kind of recover that, as he was just late on his entry there, and so he'll pick that back up. He's having a good race. He's running 14th, so he's not having a terrible day. He's up 11 positions, so he's done a great job in the first half of the race. Just one small mistake cost him a couple seconds. He'll get that. Should be able to pick that back up pretty quickly.
And it has been a little bit of a race of attrition at this point here. A lot of racers really struggling with the challenges around this track as it stands right now. Ken Poulin did not take the start in P27. Phil Berry, Adam Bradshaw, Drew Simpkins, and Joachim Osbeck all did. And they're slotted out of this race as it stands right now. So clearly, Oran Park proving to be a challenging one. I mean, you look at the layout of this track, outside of the start-finish straightaway, there is really no single point of reprieve. Outside of that, the longest flat-out blast on the entirety of the lap is between 9 and 10, as Lace Plava making the call to come down pit lane.
Yep, as we're going to see Osbeck coming out here and re-entering the track. As you can see, that's right at turn 1, and just pulls right over. So I don't know what, not really sure what that was. Black flag for speeding. Okay, speeding on pit exit. So that'll be a race done, I would say, for Mr. Osbeck. Tough luck there. Oh, Pleva in the pits now, as he is. Yep. So
Still
he's
there.
still there.
Now he's finally
on his way out.
We
were talking about that like a minute ago. I was like, that's kind of strange. I'm
looking through, it actually seems rather okay.
Yeah.
I think it was just because the nature of the track, how small it is in these spec race forwards. I was like, man, they're all right through the mid-sector. And it's like, oh, yeah, it's a very short track, this. Lace Plava currently, he spent 10.7 seconds down in the pit stall and 44.9 down pit lane, as let's see if anybody else inside this top 3 pack will join him in that call to come down pit lane. No, we will not. Looking at Jason Green, he's going to stay out for another lap. Will anybody shadow that call made by Lace Plava? We saw in that Formula Ford race the undercut not really working, the overcut actually being that strategy to run through, and as it stands 26 minutes into this 40-minute long race, we are probably going to end up seeing a vast majority of these racers make that call to come down pit lane here in the not too far off future. It may have been a good time for one of those front 3 to pit, as they do have that lap car of Brad Cathcart right in front, potentially slowing them down, but it's not smooth sailing for Lace Plava either. He at the moment has Paul Jackson running right in front of him, so I'm not sure if Lace Plava is really able to stretch his legs out at the moment, currently stuck behind that car. This is a battle for position, so it isn't a lap down situation. Paul Jackson going to not really fight that too hard, as Plava gets that move done to jump his way up into P12. Lasky with a pretty big blink there through the turn. That is rather quick there from him, as we take a look at a moment involving Russ Telker on the 260.
Yeah, as we're coming around, I think this is turn 3, and just a little too much throttle there as he was working his way around the corner, loses the rear of the car, and he's going to have to wait for a little bit. He's going to back it up and get the car turned a little bit in the grass before he can continue on. Very nice job on that rejoin there. They're just past Brad Cathcart there, one of our Aussie racers, and getting lapped at one of his home tracks very early here during the races. We're at the 27-minute mark, so I think we're getting close now that we're going to have to start getting some pit stops done here as we're coming up on the short end here, and I think we're probably 2 to 3 laps away from everybody having to come in.
And Dirk Braun has made the run to come down pit lane from the lead in Spec 2. Holds onto a very comfortable gap in that class as it stands at the present moment. Josh Wilkie came in a little bit earlier on, so this will give the race lead in Spec 2 to Paul Jackson, who is yet to make that entry into the pits, has a Brit behind the wheel of the 249 machine, currently classed in 12th as we follow him, heading his way off through turn number 2 into 3 right about now. But at the front of this field, rounding their way into the final corner, Samoas, Panero, and Lasky running at the front. Will we see them make that call to pit? We will not. Hearing as well that Dirk Braun with a rather lengthy run down pit lane. That's actually going to give the Spec 2 lead to Paul Jackson. Not Paul Jackson. I'll give the net Spec 2 lead to Josh Wilkie. My apologies, as Jason Green making that call to come down pit lane. Lasky with a dive, though, into turn number 1. Not going to work out well for him at all. Green going to get joined down pit lane by Yergmani. But touching on that point that I was raising with Dirk Braun, 1 minute fully down pit lane and 22.6 seconds in the pit stall. Big moment for your 1 point Spec 2 leader. That's going to really take him out of the fight.
Yeah, it is indeed, as we see Thompson coming down and just getting it a little sideways there. Yeah, just struggling. He's just, you could see as he was going through that starting with, did a big bounce over that irrigation ditch that you like to call it, as he was trying to get the car righted. But yeah, you can just see he got kind of squirrely in turn 3, maybe overheated the rear tires, and by the time he tried to go through turn 5, it just finally bit him. And so he's going to come into the pits now for his stop. as well as Jorg Monty is going to be working his way out of the pits, and he is
Ooh,
a
here we
very long
go.
stop for Jorg as well, 31 seconds plus. So something went terribly wrong there with Jorg. Is want to go to? Oh, we got the leaders in the pits now.
Yeah, so all the front four making that call to pit. Samoas, Panero, Lasky, and Reese all coming down in the pits as a group. Will Scott Russell follow them? I don't believe he will. He will be followed down pit lane by Tom Gradwell, though, along with Andre Favini down in the pit lane. All of these racers up the front are going to go. We'll give the race lead to Scott Russell, who stays out for one more lap in the 22 machine, who will come out in front. Panero and Samoas both on pit exit. Lasky a little bit slower compared to those two. I think it'll give the race lead, the net race lead, once the pit stops are taken care of, to Marco Panero. Samoa's right behind Lasky with a not very good run through pit lane at all. Looking at the times, 10 seconds, 10.8 stopped in the pit stall for Panero, 12.1 for Samoa's. Kane Lasky at 15.3.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking as I'm watching all the replays here as we get. I think this is Dan Whitsack again, turn 3 again. Is just working his way through 4 inside the and just overcook it in through 5 and gets it reset and gets it rolling again. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking. Pleva was right on the back of Samoas and Panero coming into the pits, and his pit stop time is cone to cone time. I mean, it's pretty similar to both those cars, but yet he's now 2 seconds behind. It's kind of a strange circumstance there.
Josh Justice making the call to come down pit lane along with Scott Russell. And let's see if anybody else will join them down pit lane. Still have some drivers left to come down pit lane at the present moment, but this will shake out with the front 3 getting back up into the front. That's Panero and Samoa's running nose to tail right behind Russ Telker. The lap car going to have to take to the grass and the gravel as he comes out of pit lane right now. Telker also has a black flag as a result of that off-track encounter hitting the incident limit, I am sure. But Panero and Samoa's in their own little world as it stands right now, but if they battle too much, look at Elias Plava in that number 46 machine. He is there to pounce as well, so close quarter stuff still going to go on. Sean McStay has made that call to come down pit lane himself in the 830 car. Just about everybody in Spec 2 has come into the pits, and that will shake out with Josh Wilkie in the race lead. I will refrain from making any further comment out of risk of him getting struck by the worst commentator, Jinx, and me potentially losing my job. So I'll say, wow, race cars close at the front of the field, about a second and a couple of tenths between your front 3 right now.
Yeah, it's starting to tighten back up. Pleva is getting that car rolling. He's tightened that gap back down. Lasky is off the lead group just a bit, and so he's got a little bit of work to do. As we see Telker coming in for a pit stop, and I think that's everybody. I think everybody's pitted, so we're good. We've got a couple of cars coming out. He's clearing the flag. Okay, so yeah, it was Telker clearing his black flag. We have another car there as well coming out of the pits. That might have been McStay for his stop as they're working around, as we still got these 3 cars within a second of each other. So battle's not quite over yet, and like I said, I think that we're on board here for a pretty exciting finish as Wilkie is getting closed down by Braun.
Dirk Braun just set his personal best lap of the race last time by at a 1:13.5, so it will be a little bit of a hill to try and climb if you are Dirk Braun. Also, you have to get past Josh Justice as well. I say this with respect to Josh Justice. He is not a racer who takes many things sitting down, so it may be a bit of an effort that Dirk Braun would have to make to jump his way up in front of Justice and have a clear, unobstructed view of Josh Wilkie. Wilkie also having the opportunity to potentially add in some more cars as a buffer zone between himself and Dirk Braun for that lead in Spec 2. You've got Tom Gradwell and Andre Favini running right in front, about a tenth of a second between those two. So we may end up seeing Wilkie reel those racers in and give himself more of a cushion. Although I say that, he runs wide, adding out of turn number 9, and that's not going to help out his case at all. We'll say there's a swapperoo between Panero and Samoa's. Marco Panero holds on to the race lead still, but the battling up at the front really starting to get hair-raising. Look at those 3 cars covered by practically nothing. They had their way through 4 off into turn number 5.
Yeah, they're starting to ramp it up now as we see Pinero in front of Samoa's, in front of Pleva. These three cars now separated by about a half second as opposed to a full second, and so we're going to start seeing some tests of strategy here as we get on these last few laps. We'll see cars start looking around, seeing where they're going to be able to make a move. Like I said, if they get a good run out of that final corner, it could be a drag race down to the finish line as Telker, I think, has decided to call it a day and has parked it into the pits as they're now coming up on so another lap car in front. Can't quite catch that number. Maybe Simpkins or Whitsack. So we'll see who that is. No, it's Matt Thompson. So, yep. Oh, so that's Matt Thompson being getting about to be lapped by the lead group.
Yeah, so Matt Thompson currently running in front of these racers as it stands right now, currently slotted in 18th as it stands at the current moment. As we look at these front three, still running nose to tail. Well, I wonder who's going to be the first to pounce in that situation. We'll just have to wait and see. We jump back to this battle with Dirk Braun, currently running in 13 as it stands right now, as that's Flavio Andlo making a call to come down pit lane. I will look to see whether or not he has already come into the pits in this race. I believe he did in the very early stages, trying to repair the damage picked up as a result of that crash at the start of the race. So this is pit stop number 2 for him. No sort of black flags or anything as a result of that number 13. He just has to come down pit lane, top it up with fuel to be able to make the final 4 minutes of this race. So he will drop down right behind Dan Witzak. A couple of cars 1 lap down here in this race, a decent amount of retirees. Felix Mo's losing out on a little bit of time as we'll take a look at this replay here. I think it may have been a lunge on Pinero potentially. Oh no, it was a slide coming out of turn number 5. Yes, I can see it's a mistake. Guido, I have eyeballs. He loses out on a spot to Alace Pleva. So Pleva now up to P2.
Yeah, it was just we've seen turn 5 catch a lot of cars out today, and that was just Samoa's just trying to get back on throttle, and the rear's not wanting to cooperate. Has to catch the car, gives Pleva a chance to move past, and now he's going to sit in third, and it's going to change the dynamics a little bit. We'll see what Pleva has for Pinero.
And the battling up at the front still going to be intense between these two. You got Samoa's looking to try and snap a winning streak that Marco Pinero has and try and make a lunge at it in the championship as we get to the closing stages here of Season 3 and get to the closing stages of this race. There's more and more pressure piling in on Felix Samoa's. He's had a good run up to this point, grabbed back-to-back wins at the Hungaroring and Lime Rock, but after that, Marco Pinero 4 wins, including 3 straight. He won at Jerez, he won Laguna Seca, he won at Sebring last time out. As it stands right now, coming, I believe this would be about 2 to 3 laps left to go here at the line right now. Marco Pinero would be on track to get his 4th straight victory here from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. About 2.5 minutes left to go here in this race. I think it's going to be borderline as to whether or not we have 2 or 3 to go. Look at Alace Pleva. He's starting to risk it for the biscuit. Maybe thought about going for a move on Pinero into turn number 1, and look at Samoa's following in suit. He wants a shot at Pinero. He wants a shot P2. Look at that, blocking a little bit as he has his way under the bridge into turn number 3. Side by side between these two through the turn, and that's Samoa's making his way up there. Look at Kane Lasky. He's hunting around in that 09 car. In case these drivers come to blows, he would be there to pick up the pieces. Now 2 minutes left to go here in this race. We'll have to see how it shakes out at the line. It's only going to be close to see as to whether or not they have 2 laps left to go or 3, but no matter how you slice it, it's going to be a tense finish up at the front.
It really is, and you can see Samoa's really wants to challenge Pinero for the win. Lasky, as you see a Pleva running wide there coming out of that corner, and I think that might have been just forced. I think Samoa's just took a wide exit and just didn't leave Pleva anywhere to go, and that's going to put Lasky up in the final podium position, and Pleva's going to have to play a little aggression here to try and get back up. So I'm seeing a white flag.
Yeah,
I'm hearing Guido saying no white flag, but I'm seeing a white flag.
Yeah, seeing that white flag get waved there, this is, I think even iRacing's getting a little bit confused by it. In terms of time, I think it was very, very close. We may potentially end up with this race having a couple seconds left to spare. iRacing through the white flag, even though in terms of time, I think they could have probably fit in one more lap of racing action here at Oran Park, and it's Marco Pinero leading over Felix Samoes, over Lasky, over Pleva. Samoes, if this is the white flag lap, he only has one real opportunity to try and make a move stick. That's probably in the run-up into the final turn number 12, the last heavy braking zone around this lap. He's close, though, about a quarter of a second between these two as they head their way down into turn number 9 for the final time in this race. Close stuff there. You can see him running on the limit of control. Pleva off the track yet again. He's really having those mistakes pile up, but look at Samoas. Will he go for the lunge? Contact being made! Into the wall goes Pinero, and that's going to be Samoas running wide as well. He doesn't want that race to be on his record. Kane Lasky gonna sweep through and grab the win here at Oran Park in a dramatic series of events. The two championship rivals come to blows. Pinero gonna walk away with the final spot on the podium. That was certainly not intentional at all from Felix Samoas. He's gonna be kicking himself. Both those drivers come to blows. Samoas is gonna be livid with himself. Pinero gonna be livid with Samoas. Tough stuff as they head their way down to turn number 12.
Yeah, that was a crazy finish, and it was setting up to be a nice run to the start-finish line, and just all hell broke loose there, just to be honest, as we're getting the more of the cars coming across. Antonio Reese getting the Masters win just ahead of Jeff Fritcher. Josh Wilkie getting the Spec 2 win, running and finishing in P10th, a couple of spots ahead of Dirk Braun in 12th. So congrats to those two guys. But yeah, just an amazing race, and that last lap was I think we need another look, just to be fair.
Yeah, I think we may need to get some more eyes on that situation. I knew it was going to be tense as soon as I saw those drivers running the odd line down into turn number 12. There is no runoff area at all. It is racetrack wall, not even racetrack a half an inch of grass, then wall. No, it's racetrack wall. Let's see. You can see, honestly, if it were me, if I were Felix Samoes and all of that, I would feel like Marco Pinero really wrecked himself in that situation. He moved a little bit in the braking zone, slammed on the brakes. Samoes really not a lot of time to try and react into something like that, and he lets him by. If it were me, I would probably assign more blame and all of that to Marco Pinero than I would to Felix Samoes, but that's just the way I personally see it.
Hello.
Opinions are like noses. We all have them, and sometimes you really want to punch someone in their opinion.
That's true. As we found a jump. So Jason Green taking the lead there, launching the cars, and standard fare here for the Spec racers at the end of the race. We trash them. So yeah, to me it maybe felt like Pinero broke a little early. Maybe that was because he was offline a bit trying to defend. I don't know, but I think we're going to get another replay and take a look. But I just watched as you see Samoas get a good run, and then I see brake lights are there on some. Oh, there we go, on Pinero's car as he was as you said, kind of moving a little bit under braking as he was trying to block the run of Samoas. Yeah, I think you're maybe right there, Ron. I think that may be Pinero with the incident responsibility, as they like to say.
Yeah, I would really put that on Pinero as a result of all that. It's tough for the both of them, and it's music to the ears of Kane Lasky, who walks away with his first win of the season. That's the first time we've seen one of our slow motion broadcasting colleagues here, at least in terms of active colleagues that we've got.
Hey, we got two. We got Lasky in Spec 1 and Wilkie in Spec 2. So. Oh
yeah, that is true. I was just gonna say the last time we saw a colleague here on slow motion broadcasting win a race overall, it's actually Josh Gang it done in I guess it was week 5 of Ron's race nights. Not week 5, I think it was week. I don't even know my own damn schedule. But it was earlier on in the Ron's race night season with the Radical Esports Cup action at Watkins Glen, where Josh was able to get the job done, that top split broadcast. Someone's upside down. I think that may be Tom Gradwell. Turtle shelled there, but
I mean, he is
what a race! What a race!
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to throw it, we'll say Antonio Reese is in here as much as anybody else. So he's almost like another broadcaster at this point. He's in here so much. Guido's sick of him already. It's crazy. But yeah, really, really fantastic race. Great battling. Obviously, for a free track that doesn't get used a lot, it's been pretty difficult on our drivers. We saw lots of drivers who we wouldn't normally see making mistakes, making some pretty expensive mistakes. As far as damage to their car. So let's get the race results, and we'll see if we have some interviews.
Yeah, I think I can already see some drivers looking to join us in the end of the broadcast here. But Kane Lasky, our slow motion broadcasting colleague, going to grab the checkered flag at the end of this race. So the driver of the 09 car wins it over Elias Pleva in P2. It's Marco Pinero finishing this race in third, rounding out your podium finishers. As a result, it'll be Marco Pinero finishing in front of Felix Samoas. Those two coming to blows right towards the end of this race. Jason Green going to round out your top five. Antonio Reese wins it in the Masters category, finishing this race in sixth, and from Jeff Fritcher in seventh, Scott Russell in eighth. Andre Favini will finish this race in P9, and Mr. Joshua Wilkie going to walk away with a Spec 2 win at the end of this race as well, rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, Josh Justice finishes in 11th. Dirk Braun, Spec 2 P2, finishing in 12th. Tom Gradwell rounding out your Masters podium in 13th. George Monty in 14th. Brad Cathcart in 15th. Paul Jackson getting the final step of the Spec 2 podium in 16th. Dan Woods finishes in 17th. In 18th, we have Matt Thompson. In 19th, Sean McStay. Dan Witzak finishing in 20th. Flavio Ondolo finishing in 21st. Russ Telker in 22nd. Joaquin Osbeck finishing in 23rd. Hugh Simpkins finishing in 24th. Adam Bradshaw finishing 25th. Phil Berry finishing in 26th. And Ken Poulin came in and did not take the start of the race, so he'll be classified in 27th.
And so those are your results at the end of this race. Round number 8 of this season is won by Kane Lasky. He's up there in the broadcast booth, so I think I'll drag him in to have a quick little chat. Our slow motion broadcasting colleague, I will have a quick little chat with him. Last time him and I spoke, I was getting him set up of how to become a commentator here at SMB. But I'll drag him in. Kane, welcome into the broadcast booth. Well done on the victory. Before I ask you about the race, how was that final quarter and seeing all that chaos go on right in front?
I wasn't surprised. It's hard to pass here. And, those two guys have definitely a competitive rivalry going, and they're, at the moment, like the fastest and most consistent people in all areas. So I would have been absolutely happy with the podium because I didn't practice as much this week because this track is a lottery, and it's not very fun to drive on, and it's not very fun to race on. And so I just tried to run a conservative race, and my aim was to get on the box. And I was happy enough when Alex made that mistake on the second to the last lap, and I knew I had a solid podium, and I was just hoping. And at the end, I shouldn't have got the win, but yeah, Felix probably wasn't happy with his move, so he slowed down. And, for me, I've had a bunch of maybe not the best luck this season. There were races where I had the pace, and I should have probably finished higher up on the box, and I didn't get the luck fall my way. And today, I ran a pretty good race, and I'll take every bit of luck because it's pretty hard to get on the top of the box in this series with these guys up in front.
I'll tell you what, man, it's I said right before we dragged you in, first time that one of our colleagues here on Slow Motion Broadcasting has been able to win a race overall since Josh got done in a radical race on week 2 of Ron's race nights a couple of weeks ago. So must feel pretty good getting that victory, doubly so because all throughout this season you have been close up at the front all throughout it.
Yeah, in general, my pace has been there, and I had 3 pit mistakes this season. Ran out of gas twice, so today was a difficult choice. I couldn't figure out if we were going to run 32 laps or 33. It was very close. I was wondering, I was going to ask you guys because I took 33 laps of fuel because, I just don't want to make another mistake. So today it was like, okay, if I miss the podium, I'm not going to risk on fuel anymore. But these guys are just at the top of their game. They're very good in qualifying. They're very good with their racecraft. They're incredibly fast. Today was one of the hardest races of the season. Like, I was on the limit. for the first half of the race. Absolutely, and one mistake and I was gone. I was never going to be in the draft again. It was very hectic, and it wasn't until maybe about 6 laps before the pit stop where I really caught up and I was able to relax a little bit. And then my strategy was to move forward to try to get into pits first, because I knew I was going to maybe take more fuel. And I got by Alex, but Marco was like, no way. Yeah, and at the end, it just turned out the way it did. I guess what I was saying is I was nervous all race, and very nervous in the pit. And I couldn't even really pay attention to those guys, because I said, just drop your cut the fuel off when you see Marco or Felix leave the pits. But I couldn't even do that. I just focused and I filled up my car to where it was and just tried not to make any mistakes. So, but a hectic race, hard track, and very relieved to get the just the podium today, and elated to get the win. Actually, probably hasn't sunk in yet, and happy to be winning for SMB. We're on the way up. Like, really happy to be in the booth with you guys. Really had fun broadcasting the race, and really looking forward to the rest of the season and getting in the booth with you guys. Thanks.
And looking ahead to next week's race here for the Spec Racing Fords, Magny Core on the Grand Prix Lab. That's going to be another rather challenging one, but that's also going to be a bit of a draft fest there. So what are your thoughts heading to that race in 1 week's time?
Never raced there. I don't think I have maybe more than 5 or 7 laps. I own the track. I bought it. And I think when I tried to use it, it was not good for my VR. Like when it originally was released, like I could not even get it to play with the lowest settings. So I haven't lapped very much on it. But I did look at the track map, Ron, and it looks like it's going to be a good track to race on. It looks like it's pretty big, and there's some hard braking zones. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more fun than Oran Park. And I'm really looking forward to the week after, which is Road America, which is absolutely one of my favorite tracks to race on in any car. So, yeah, looking forward to the next 2 weeks. And, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, certainly looking to see what Magny Core will bring for week number 9 of the season. Kane, we'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs before we let you go and celebrate this win.
Yeah, I guess just thanks again to all the guys that race. It's so fun to come out because you have to really be on top of your game. Thanks to all the Weekend Warriors staff for putting on an amazing league. Thanks to you guys for broadcasting. And thanks for Josh and all you guys for the little bit of training that I've been getting to learn how to be on the back end. It's been really fun. And looking forward to see you guys all next week. And I guess I should thank Felix and Marco for their intense rivalry, because certainly gifted me the top of the box today. So keep fighting, guys. I love it.
Hey, well, there you go, man. But Kane, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. Well done on the win, and looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack at Magny Core next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Ciao.
You as well. That right there was Kane Lasky, your Spec 1 winner at the end of this race. And Charles, got some drivers up there in the broadcast booth, so I'll let you drag in who you want to have a chat with.
Well, I will. I'll pull in Antonio, and I'll have a chat with him this time, and so we'll have that conversation. Antonio, congratulations on your Masters Pass win again. Guido,
Boring.
Yeah, just complaining the entire time. I said during the broadcast, you'll hear this, that you're in here so much, you're almost like an unofficial SMB broadcaster at this point, because you're in here as much as I am. So, congrats. Obviously, very difficult race, lots of drama at the end. So just talk about it from your perspective. I think you just had a pretty quiet race. You just tried to stay out of trouble today, it looked like to me.
No, not quiet at all. I was fighting with the car and with the truck every corner to try not to die. But yeah, it's a very challenging, this track. Even to keep the car on the track is so difficult. So to be fast is even more difficult. And I think I have the wrong setup. I have a setup from Spa, so it didn't really work well. Even I could do 13.3 without draft, but it was really not the ideal setup for this track. But anyway, it was the one I have. Then I just got it, that one, and then I have to drive it. But it was a fun race actually. It was very, as you said, it was very quiet because there is nobody around me, so no no one in front, no one behind. So I was just cruising, and it was quite cool from that perspective.
But you did say that you were having to fight the car and the track as well. We saw a lot of incidents in turn 3 and turn 5. So it just looked like the cars were not wanting to cooperate, trying to keep the rear end behind the driver during the race. Is that you kind of experienced the same thing?
Yeah, on the practice, yes, but I already knew, I was aware of that, so I was avoiding to push too much to avoid to happen that kind of thing. So I was kind of a conservative, even a little bit slower, but not trying to go over the line.
Hey, well, conservative, has worked, and you've picked up another Masters class victory. So congratulations. Next week, Magny Core. We saw that last season with the Spec racers. Pretty good battle there at Magny Core, to be fair. So what are your thoughts?
I'll be watching. I don't have that track, so I'll be watching the race.
So we've already established we're going to have a new Masters class winner next week.
Yeah.
All right. So
hopefully.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So hey, so we may just have to have you pop in during the race and just watch. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like I'll miss you if you're gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll miss you too, guys.
So Antonio, congratulations again. Let you give me thanks for shout outs.
Yeah, for boring. Steve Ray, you guys on the broadcast. I'm not tired of repeating it because this is what I really feel. And then I really appreciate and I'm very thankful for you guys, the broadcast, for the Steve Ray, the guys helping Steve Ray to administrate everything and keep the things working, Adam and all the guys, Jason, and I'm not going to name one by one, but and then also for the viewers, for the sponsors, very important as well, and for the drivers, the great Weekend Warriors community and all the YouTube viewers, the guys keeping watching our races and making the race get interesting for us to being watched by those fans. So we have a lot of fans watching us. Thank you very much.
All right, Antonio, thank you. We'll see you at least in Formula 4 next week, though, right?
Yeah. See you on the Formula 4 and but I also don't have Formula V track, so I will do only Formula 4 the next weekend.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you.
Thanks for having me.
Forward. Yes, sir. See you next time.
Yeah, take care. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And that right there was Antonio Reese, a man who I think we need to get a key cut for him to get into the broadcast booth whenever he wants, because he's here so freaking often.
And he doesn't meow when he comes in, so that's
exactly. That's a fantastic point as well. Adam, he comes in here, meows into my. I'll tell you what, maybe it's just me. I'm already mentally disturbed enough. If you've listened to a broadcast with me, you can tell. But having a 30-something-year-old man meow into my ear does not do me good when it comes to that regard. But one crazy man has decided to keep me around here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and that is my longtime producer and our buddy here, Mr. Joshua Wookie, our Spec 2 winner at the end of this race here in the broadcast booth. Josh, welcome in. You finally didn't get struck by a falling anvil.
Yeah, the anvils have been aplenty lately for sure, but I'm having a blast out there nonetheless. Even the FF race was so much fun until the incident there ended up DQing. I apologize to Rast as well there. I was just trying to let him by. I think, after I DQ'd, I was a little frustrated and he hit me. But anyway, this race was excellent. A little bit of strategy. I think I undercut some people, not really sure. I think I maybe actually executed a fuel strategy today, which is a first for me. So, yeah, it was tough out there, man. Very tough.
It was a rather interesting race in the sense that a lot of people running into difficulties around this track. It is part of base content, but as Charles raised, everybody really doesn't run around Oran Park too much. I think in the entire time of us working together, Josh, I think we've only done one broadcast here, and that was with the Formula Vs at Oran last season. So just doesn't get a whole lot of use this place, doubly so on this Moto layout.
Yeah, the Moto layout's a little that little squiggle that they added there is actually pretty fun. It feels like a little go-kart track. You kind of have to attack it, and it's got some favorable camber and stuff to it. It's actually pretty fun. Very difficult right-hander in there that I think a lot of people, including myself, I was opposite lock through there, clenching my butt cheeks more than a couple times for sure. But really good race today. I was just talking to Kane about it. I just need to iron out some wrinkles maybe in my driving a little bit, some less mistakes. Thinking about fuel lost me about 2 seconds, but I'm really happy with it. I hustled pretty hard today. I'm sweating, and I think everybody else is too. It was a great race.
We'll let you get some air conditioning in after we ask you about Magny Core in 1 week's time. That's going to be a rather good race, and I'm trying to think now, is are the FVs running there this upcoming week? I should know that because it's kind of, my job, but when did I ever do that too well? Let me look to see whether or not that is where we're running for the Formula Vs. I know it is the case for the Spec Racer Fords.
I think it is. I think they're
I
going to
believe it
Magny
is,
Core as well. Yeah,
double feature for Magny Core. So what are your thoughts heading there?
So that's going to be an interesting one for sure, like you're saying, Ron. It's twisty. I think it's relatively new. I've heard more than a couple drivers here, just some inside info that they're not even going to buy it, kind of thing. That they're not into that track. So it should be pretty interesting. There's going to be some specialists there and some people that are just learning it. So I think that's kind of always the way it's been there. But I really like that track. It's flowy, it's fast, it's got some blind stuff, some undulation. I don't know it well, and that's exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing you potentially contend for another Spec 2 win this season, Josh. We'll do these as we usually do. We'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs before we let you go.
Yeah, big giant thanks to you guys and everybody at SMB here. We've been just charging forward with all kinds of stuff. A bunch of new things coming in the next little bit. Massive thanks to the Weekend Warriors and this league and everything here. It can't even put into words how awesome it is to be able to race with people like this online. And everybody's just so respectful and awesome. What a great community. So I just want to thank you guys. Thank my wife as well for letting me do this stuff and, being cool about it. She's all stoked when I win and everything. So pretty awesome. Thanks, guys.
And thank you as well, Josh, for everything that you do. And thank you as well to Bobby West, the sponsor of today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Josh, I'm sure we're probably going to have a chat with you after this broadcast is wrapped, but we'll drag you out of your own commentary booth for now.
Sounds good, boys. Have a good one. Great show today, as always. And take care, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. Yep, sounds good. And that right there was our boss, Mr. Joshua Wilkie. Feel bad dragging him out of the commentary booth because he does pay me, but that's neither here nor there. But Charles, great race here at Oran Park. Bit of a challenging one, but I have a feeling Magny Core for next week's race is maybe going to be this race cranked up a little bit.
Yeah, we were there last season, and the racing was obviously lots of drafting, lots of moves down in the corners, and then you got that chicane at the end, which caught a few drivers out. So that'll be another one. We'll have that last lap battle there, and we'll see some cars doing some airborne, maneuvering as they try and cross over and just cut that chicane as much as they can. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a very interesting race. It should be for the vast majority something that they've kind of worked with before. Obviously, we're going to miss Antonio for that event because he doesn't own the track, but completely understandable. Oh, Guido saying no, we're not. So he may show up just uninvited anyway, which is fine. We like Antonio. Looking forward to it. It's going to be another great weekend of Weekend Warriors racing, and so we'll just start counting down the days.
Yeah, count down the days, count down the time for that race in 1 week's time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. A lot of action between then and now. Tuesday with the SRG F4 Series. That'll be at Barber, your hometown, Charles. So I'm sure you're going to be a fan of that. You'll be on the broadcast for the F3s coming up at Road Atlanta on Wednesday. And on Wednesday as well, you'll be able to see our colleague, Mr. Mike Braun's perspective in his attempt at the 5th annual MS charity race here on the iRacing platform. Formula V action will be at Magny Core on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Ron's Race Nights will return for the Week 9 action from the Radical Esports Cup at Fuji at 9 p.m. on Saturday. And then on Super Sunday here on SMB, you can see the action from the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors at Mount Panorama and the Spec Racer Fords at Magny Core. So it gives you a good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the racing action. We also got the return of the XMS IndyCar Championship Series coming up for this season. Recruitment still going on through to the end of August, where we hope to get that season up and rolling, and hopefully all of you will be able to tune into these broadcasts here on Slow Motion Broadcasting as we continue on our charge here for Season 3 of 2025. But as for this broadcast here, for week number 8 action from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors here at Oran Park, that will do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi doing a wonderful job working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you also very much for tuning into this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not-too-distant future.